Today, we're diving into a role you probably don't even have a job title for, but it might just be the most important one you're missing. We're talking about a stabilizing force that can save your company from itself. Yeah, we're going to learn how to hire an elephant. Have you ever asked yourself this? It's the kind of question that keeps leaders up at night. You know the feeling. You launch all these new initiatives, you hire brilliant, energetic people, but somehow you end up facing the exact same problems over and over again. Why does nothing ever seem to stick? Well, a huge part of the problem might actually be the very thing you're most proud of, your high-energy culture. We all love to celebrate those young high potentials, the hyperactive managers, the constant stream of new projects. But let's be honest about the result, right? The strategy is always changing, nothing ever gets truly embedded for the long term, and eventually, your best people just get burned out and leave. So, you see, the problem isn't a lack of energy, it's a lack of a backbone. The real answer here isn't more energy, it's stability. Think about it. You probably don't need another rock star or some lion to come in and shake things up even more. No, what you really need is an elephant. Someone who brings that emotional gravity and that long-term perspective to actually hold things together. Okay, so what in the world is an elephant in a corporate sense? Let's really break down what this archetype is all about. At its core, an elephant is that experienced stabilizer. They've got this deep institutional memory. They're the ones who remember why that big idea failed the last time you tried it. They bring an emotional gravity to conversations, and maybe most importantly, they keep a long-term view when everybody else is getting distracted by all the short-term noise. Let's dig into their key traits. First, deep experience. They've seen it all, the market cycles, the internal crises, you name it. Their memory is a strategic asset. Their authority, their emotional weight, it comes from legitimacy, not from being the loudest person in the room. They're always thinking in years, not just the next quarter. And they have this powerful protective instinct for the company's legacy and crucially for its people. I love this quote. In a world totally obsessed with moving fast and breaking things, the elephant's job is totally different. They're there to move steadily and to protect the essential things that should not be broken. They literally stop you from breaking the foundations of your own success. All right, so you're convinced you need one. But how do you actually find an elephant? Well, it's not as simple as posting a generic job ad. It all starts with designing a role that speaks directly to their unique mindset. You need an elephant most during these critical moments, like when you're going through a high-risk transition, say a merger or an acquisition, or when your management team is young, maybe a little insecure, and needs that steady hand. And definitely when the whole organization just feels like it's lost its long-term compass. That is exactly when their stability is priceless. So to attract them, the mission has to have real substance. You need to frame the role around these 4 pillars. We're talking about guardianship of quality, long-term stewardship of the strategy, being a mentor to the next generation, and critically, having a real voice in the room to challenge short-sighted decisions. And the language you use in that job ad, it's everything. Phrases like, your experience will be actively used, or we value people who think in years. That's music to their ears. But things like constant hack and pivot mode, or hinting that they'll just be executing orders, that's going to send them running for the hills. They're looking for respect and impact, not just another chaotic gig. Okay, so let's say your ad worked. You've attracted a great candidate. Now, the hiring and onboarding process has to be handled so carefully. This is where you can either win them over for good or lose them forever. The crucial point you have to remember in the interview is this. You're not just checking a box for years of experience. That's meaningless. You are testing for integrated experience, the actual wisdom they've gained from all those years. So here's your first key question to ask. What you're listening for here is real accountability and genuine learning. Do they own their part in what went wrong? Did they actually change their thinking because of it? The big red flag is someone who just tells you stories where they were always the smartest person in a room full of idiots. Next, you gotta probe their relationship with change. You know, they often get stereotyped as being resistant, but a true elephant is way more nuanced. They can get behind a necessary change while still raising the tough, valid concerns. You're looking for that balance, not blind acceptance and not pure nostalgia. And finally, you have to test their ability to be a mentor. This one is huge. Can they actually empower other people, or do they just want to create a bunch of clones of themselves? A real elephant leaves space for others to grow. They guide them, they don't control them. And once you hire them, their onboarding needs to be super respectful of their experience. The first 30 days, that's for listening and mapping out the organization. The next 30, they can start to influence key decisions and de-risk projects. And by day 90, they should be formally assuming guardianship over their domain. It's a gradual integration, not a trial by fire. But look, the work isn't done after 90 days, not even close. Keeping your elephant engaged is the real key to unlocking their true long-term value for your company. So what do they need? It's actually pretty simple. They need genuine respect for their experience. They need a seat at the tables where the important decisions are actually being made. They need to be allowed to work on projects with a long-term time horizon. And they need the space to mentor and teach others. And here's a serious warning. If you fail to provide these things, they're not going to cause a big scene. A hurt elephant doesn't storm out in a blaze of glory. They just slowly, quietly disengage. And that silent fading is one of the most damaging things that can happen to your company culture. And what do you actually lose when they check out? Well, you lose the organization's memory, for one. You lose all the nuance in your decision-making. And maybe worst of all, you lose the trust of all the people who looked up to them as that stabilizing force. The cost is absolutely immense. So I'll leave you with this question. Take a hard look at your own organization. Are you really ready to listen to them? Are you prepared to grant them real access and actually value their long-term perspective over chasing short-term wins? Because an elephant isn't going to bring you the loudest energy or the flashiest new idea, but they will bring something so much more valuable. They will be the one who quietly stops you from making the same expensive mistakes again and again. Ultimately, they're the one who will make your entire organization, well, more adult.